So we learned about the transatlantic slave trade, and the first thing we read from the textbook was about mercantilism, which basically measured a empire's wealth on the amount of gold and silver they had on hand. Um, and I think that's the basis of how the slave trade ended up being so important. um, so the old world, or like, European countries, things like that, they sent um, people over to the New World or the Americas to take all of the resources, um, and ship them back. And it was basically an extension of the colonies, were an extension of the old world. So you could send less gold out to buy things. It was just part of their empire. Um, and then they used the native populations to cultivate and grow the crops that they needed back home. And the native populations are really susceptible to the diseases that the Europeans brought over. So when they started dying off, they needed a new form of free labor, so they wouldn't have to spend money on labor. And that's where the African people came in. They became part of the triangle of the slave trade. People would come from Africa through the Middle Passage to um, the New World, and then back to Europe, and then it would just go in a triangle like that. But yes, so I feel like they justified this with religion after the need for the labor was determined. Once they determined they needed it, they could explain it by basically saving these savages. They framed them in a way that they were uncivilized or uncultured, which wasn't true. It was just a culture that wasn't like theirs. And then we learned about the devastating effect of the slave trade on the actual West African empire itself, taking all of the working age men and women, and transporting them over to the Americas, basically decimated an entire, multiple hundreds of generations at the end of the day. Like, it decimated their development entirely because there was no one able to work and maintain and build things within their society because they'd all been taken and brought over to the Americas. And that's had lasting effects for hundreds and hundreds of years. But yes, and then I think that's it. Yes, I think that's really the most important parts.